lungs, the spleen, and the heart.
What the fuck do you want?
I want your liver.
When Wrath of Man first hit theaters back in 2021, it didn't exactly make waves the way some of Jason Statham's other films have, but that doesn't mean it didn't plant the seeds for something bigger. In fact, the way the movie ended practically begged for a sequel, even though no official announcement has been made yet. And now, thanks to its new popularity on streaming, Wrath of Man is finally getting the second wind it deserves, which only strengthens the chances of a follow-up. The ending of the movie is really where potential lies. Statham's character, Patrick H. Hill, whose real name is Mason Hargraves, spends the whole story on a ruthless mission to avenge the death of his son, Dougie. By the time the credits roll, he's already cut down everyone responsible, including Jan, the most despicable of the bunch. On the surface, it feels like H's story could stop right there because he achieved his main goal. But when you look closer, it's clear that the door to a sequel is wide open. For one, Mason isn't just some grieving father anymore. He's revealed to be one of the most powerful figures in the criminal underworld. That makes things interesting because it means he has a lot of enemies, some of whom probably won't sit quietly after what he did. The first film only scratched the surface of who Mason really is, and a sequel could dive much deeper into that world. Instead of sticking with armored trucks or the Fortico Security Company, Wrath of Man 2 could expand into global crime networks, high-stakes revenge, or even rival cartels looking to settle the score. Jason Statham is the kind of action star who thrives in roles like this because he has the perfect balance of grit and cool. He plays characters that don't waste words, rely on skill over flash, and get the job done no matter what. So if a sequel happens, you know audiences would be in for more of that sharp-edged, no-nonsense energy that only Statham can bring. That's part of why Wrath of Man's second life on streaming feels like such a big deal. It proves people are still hungry for this type of story, and for Statham in particular. Even though Wrath of Man didn't blow critics away when it first came out, it's aged surprisingly well. On Hulu, it shot up to the second spot on the platform's top 10 movie chart, right behind Riff Raff. That's impressive because Hulu's chart mixes classics like Dirty Dancing with more recent titles, and Wrath of Man still managed to carve out a place near the top. It shows that the audience is there, and with a big enough audience, sequels almost always follow. Guy Ritchie deserves credit too. He's been in the game for decades and knows how to craft action films with a style that stands out. His movies have a certain energy, witty dialogue, sharp pacing, and a touch of grit that makes them feel more grounded than typical Hollywood blockbusters. Teaming him with Statham is always a win because the two have already proven they make a great combo in earlier hits like Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Wrath of Man might not have hit those legendary heights, but it shows how well the partnership still works. So if the two reunite for a sequel, fans would know to expect that same high-octane magic. It's worth remembering that 2021 wasn't exactly a normal year for box office numbers. The pandemic kept a lot of people out of theaters, and Wrath of Man fell victim to that climate. It still managed to pull in over $100 million worldwide, which was nothing to sneeze at, but you can easily imagine it would have done even better in a regular year. Compare that to The Beekeeper, another Statham-led action flick that turned into a huge success, and you start to see how Wrath of Man could have been a much bigger theatrical hit under different circumstances. Because of all that, the streaming resurgence feels almost like the film is finally getting the attention it missed out on the first time. People are watching it, recommending it, and keeping it in Hulu's top 10. That kind of momentum has convinced studios to revive plenty of projects before, and Wrath of Man is in a prime position for that treatment. Now, let's talk about the story possibilities for a sequel, because this is where things get exciting. With Jan gone and Dougie avenged, Mason has technically completed his mission, but he hasn't exactly left the world of crime behind. He's still a major player, and the underworld never forgets. That alone sets the stage for rival crime bosses or even law enforcement agencies to come after him. Imagine Mason going up against someone equally calculated and ruthless, someone who sees him as both a threat and an opportunity. It would be the perfect way to raise the stakes without losing the personal intensity that made the first film so gripping. Another direction could be exploring Mason's past in more detail. Wrath of Man hinted at his dual life as both a criminal and a father, but it didn't really unpack the layers of how he got there. A sequel could flesh that out through flashbacks, rivalries, or unfinished business. It could even show how his role as a crime lord puts him in conflict with people who once considered him an ally. That would not only add depth to his character, but also give Statham more room to show the emotional side of H, which is always a bonus in action-heavy stories. Even though the first film was pretty self-contained, audiences know that revenge stories rarely end neatly. Someone always wants payback, and Mason's brutal efficiency in the first movie practically guarantees that enemies will be gunning for him in a follow-up. This setup is a goldmine because it allows the sequel to expand the world, bring in new characters, and still keep the focus on Mason's raw, unstoppable drive. The timing couldn't be better either. Jason Statham is on a roll right now with hit after hit, and his movies always perform well on streaming platforms. Audiences trust him to deliver, which makes him one of the safest bets in Hollywood for action franchises. Pair that with Guy Ritchie's knack for reinvention, and you've got a recipe for a sequel that could easily surpass the first movie's success. And the truth is, Wrath of Man 2 doesn't even need to reinvent the wheel. It just needs to double down on what worked. Tense action sequences, gritty storytelling, and Statham being a force of nature. If you give audiences that, plus a few fresh twists, it's bound to hit big. The renewed interest also proves something else, that audiences are open to darker, more serious action films. Wrath of Man wasn't flashy like The Fast and the Furious, or tongue-in-cheek like some other blockbusters. It was grim, straightforward, and brutally effective. A sequel could lean into that tone even more, while also playing with bigger ideas, like loyalty, betrayal, and the price of revenge. Because of all these reasons, a sequel doesn't just seem possible, it actually seems likely. Wrath of Man has already proven it can attract viewers in theaters and on streaming. Statham is as bankable as ever, and the ending clearly left threads for another story. Even though nothing is official yet, the signs all point toward the story continuing. And honestly, the thought of watching Mason Hargraves dive back into the criminal underworld, facing off against enemies old and new, is the kind of promise that keeps fans hooked. Wrath of Man may have started as an underdog, but it's now building the kind of momentum that often leads to long-running franchises. The groundwork is there, the audience is ready, and the excitement is only growing. So, if Wrath of Man 2 gets the green light, it won't just be a sequel, it'll be the chance to see Statham and Ritchie take this gritty world to the next level. Well, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. We'll see you next time.